Welcome to another brand new episode of Strange Encounters, where we take a deep dive into the mysterious and unexplained world of alien and UFO encounters. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell, and send your unexplained and strange encounters to verystrangeencounters@gmail.com. You can now submit your stories online to the website linked below the video. Join us on Reddit at r/verystrangeencounters. You can donate to the channel at Patreon or buymeacoffee.com, which are also linked below. So, sit back, relax, and prepare to be amazed by the mysteries of the universe as we listen to these allegedly true alien encounter stories on this episode of Strange Encounters. Visited by Aliens in the Middle of the Night by Mushroom Wizard. Hello everyone. I would like to share an experience that happened to me about 2 years ago. I never really told anyone except my girlfriend, and it freaked her out. I remember this vividly and would like some insight so I can make something out of this. This is what happened. Me and my girlfriend were living in a house that belonged to her parents, but we paid them rent every month. $500 a month. Not bad, right? Well, anyway, I remember being asleep in bed. I usually slept on the left side of the bed, and my girlfriend slept on the right side of the bed. I woke up in the middle of the night and saw two alien beings that resembled gray aliens. Their skin color was grayish-brownish. Both were standing on the right side of the bed next to my girlfriend who was asleep. I remember thinking that this couldn't be real. So what I did next was reach my right arm over to one of these beings in an attempt to physically touch one. What happened next is crazy. As my arm reached out to one of these beings, I saw one of them sort of wave his hand in front of me, which caused me to involuntarily and slowly fall back in place in bed and fall back asleep. And well, that's all I remember. The next morning, when I woke up, I remembered what happened vividly, yet I was not sure if this was some sort of dream or what. It sure didn't feel like a dream, though. Anyway, that's all I got. What do you guys make out of this? Alien Encounter by Dragon Kiwi. This experience at the time flipped my life upside down. It changed the way I see life for what it is and how I live my everyday life. So please be respectful, and I'll try to be as detailed as possible in the description. Disclaimer: I was not on any drugs, meds, alcohol, etc., nor do I have any medical history. The reason I say this is because I question my own sanity, and I will tell you why and what I discovered. Okay, here goes my story. Last October, I woke up to the sound of someone walking and going through my stuff. I didn't open my eyes at first because I thought it's a family member of mine that is just grabbing something, but the noise just kept going on, and I got annoyed. I opened my eyes and turned my back over, and what I saw made my skin white, and I honestly just freaked out. It was no family member of mine walking back and forth in my bedroom. I honestly didn't even know what I was looking at the time. In my head, I processed it as a bug monster. It looked like a bug. What I mean by that is that it was not flesh and bones like me and you, but insect-like legs. Kind of looked like grasshopper legs, the same texture and wooden look. Its hips, pelvic bone, are popping out of its lower back, and it walked like it was crippled. Not like how me and you walk standing straight up, like how someone walks with very bad lower back pain. The leg area had grooves. Its color was dark green-brown. The upper body was skinny and had skin compared to how the legs looked. The upper body was more humanoid-like, while the lower body looked straight insect. Its head was triangular and roundish. It moved fast, like an insect, which makes me believe it's also light in weight. I don't remember the eyes or face to be exact, so I won't be mentioning that. And I don't remember what the arms looked like, and I couldn't see the feet from my point of view. I was genuinely focused on those bug-like legs, pelvis sticking out, how it walked, and I was freaking out. Now, back to the story. After I turned around and saw what I saw, I tripped out. It then noticed I was awake, and oh boy, was I awake. I almost soiled myself. I could have even had a heart attack. It was real. It then ran straight through my bedroom door like magic, which is the very reason I questioned my own sanity and couldn't make sense of it. I know what I saw. I was fully awake and up while it was still walking around in my room close to my bed. But when it ran through the door, I couldn't explain that part. There was no noise or shadow on the wall or anything that I noticed. My adrenaline kicked in and I ran straight to my bedroom door and locked it. I looked from under the door to see if there was anything because I was scared to open the door. Then I started to worry about my family and decided to open the door and check on them. Everyone was asleep, including my dog, and no one heard my screams. I questioned myself. Maybe it was a dream, sleep paralysis, etc. But no, it wasn't. It was real. I remember it until today, and that was that. P.S. What made me realize it was an alien and not a monster? Months later, I randomly came across a video of people talking about their encounters. I found most of them to be out there, till one person mentioned what I saw exactly and had a sketch and how they can walk through walls. That's when my jaw hit the floor and I got confirmation that I am not insane. I never in my wildest dreams thought this stuff truly existed. Back in 2010, my friend and I saw something by Brad M. Tech. So, back in 2010, I lived in a relatively dark area. When I say dark, I lived about 20 miles from the closest city, so light pollution was definitely still there, but the sky was dark enough to see thousands of stars on a clear night. One night, a friend and I were sitting in the back of my truck looking at the stars when I saw what looked like a satellite. Very small, quick-moving light up in the stars and staying in a straight path across the sky. When I noticed it, I said, "Another satellite." And as I said that, the light came to a stop. It started blinking. Not a fast blinking, but definitely blinking. After about 5 minutes of it staying still blinking, the light went solid again, but was very, very bright. After the light got bright enough to blend in with the brightest stars in the sky, it zoomed away across the sky over the horizon line. Where I lived was in between two large farms, no trees around and just emptiness for as far as you could see, with the exception of a mountain that separates where I used to live from the city. The light stopped directly above us, so when it covered the rest of the sky to the horizon line in a matter of 2 to 3 seconds, it freaked us out a little, just wondering if anyone else might have had an experience like this. Vision-like Dream by The Unseen 3. This is quite long and detailed, but I'd appreciate it if anyone can help me make sense of it, especially if you've witnessed beings similar to what I saw. I enjoy learning about what may be going on in the collective consciousness and subconscious, so please feel free to share. I've had very vivid dreams sporadically throughout my entire life that linger and seem to always relay a profound and clear message by the end. I've had experiences where I've astral projected without trying to. I prefer not to, but I can handle myself when it happens. Or I've randomly become lucid during dreams, which can be unsettling for me. Last night, the latter happened. This dream took place in what felt like the not-so-distant future. I had one of those extremely vivid UFO-related dreams earlier this year and wasn't expecting to have another so soon. In last night's dream, I was in a very high-rise building in a city that reminded me of Seattle or San Francisco. I was about to do some paperwork and suddenly had the overwhelming feeling to look out the window of the high-rise office I was in. It was daytime. There was a beautiful blue sky with a few small clouds scattered scarcely above. Some movement to the right of me caught my eye. When I turned my head, I saw a huge white cloud to the right and slightly above my view, so I was looking slightly up and to the right. Within this cloud, I could make out something that looked like a giant charcoal gray log moving slowly through the cloud. This is when I think I became lucid. Once the log shape breached the cloud, I could see it was a cigar-shaped craft with rounded ends lined with many windows. Each window had 2 to 3 beings looking out upon the earth, and they were turning their heads to look at each other. Then they turned their heads back to look upon the earth, then turned back to each other, over and over. I couldn't say their mouths moving, or couldn't really make out any mouths on them at all, but they were moving their heads as if they were engaged in conversation. The beings looked sort of like the typical gray, but also quite different. It's like they could have been distant cousins of each other, although these seemed somehow more sophisticated than classic grays. Hard to describe. I remember noting to myself that their heads were even larger and wider than what I've seen described by witnesses, and their skin was a tan-brown, nutty color and had ridges or bumps. I consciously thought they remind me of the movie Ants from the 90s, and this thought would have been funny to me if the scenario didn't have such an ominous vibe. Their eyes weren't solid black either, which surprised me. Their eyes were the same very large almond shape, but they had large dark pupils, and I could see something resembling whites in their eyes. I consciously thought, that's weird. They have whites in their eyes? I couldn't tell how tall they were as I could only see their necks and heads, but some looked to be taller than others. Perhaps I was intimidated by the size of this craft or the very odd appearance of the beings, but the ominous feeling told me to stay out of sight, so I ducked and continued observing. As the cigar-shaped craft slowly glided on, I realized how long this thing was. There had to be at least 100 beings on board from what I could see through the windows. I remember thinking it looked like a mile-long submarine floating with a purpose in the sky. They definitely wanted to be seen. As it passed, near the very end of the craft through the windows, I saw what appeared to be humans of various ages looking out upon the earth as if they were tourists who had never seen it before or hadn't seen it in a very long time. Some looked surprised, some amazed, and some looked sad. The humans were dressed in navy blue uniforms like the ones car mechanics wear. I watched it as it slowly continued on its voyage until it was no longer in my view. It was completely silent the entire time. I remember not being able to think properly. My mind was clouded, and I felt so profoundly stuck. What do I do? Should I run outside? Check Reddit for news? Pray? Hide? But all I could do was stay planted in front of the window staring out, waiting because I knew it wasn't over. A few short moments later, I noticed a glint and my vision focused on a classic silver, saucer-shaped UFO, further away in the sky than the cigar was. It reminded me of the Chicago bean, but upside down. It was surrounded by waviness, like the heat above a road during summertime. The sun was glistening off of it, and I thought it was beautiful. It was wobbling like a weird buoy for a moment, then it went totally still. This one had a perfect little dome on top, a skinny dark lip around its middle, no visible lights, and a circular protrusion in the center of its underside. After I watched it for a few seconds, it seemed to notice me like it could feel me watching it. I got nervous, but not scared, And just as I was about to crouch down out of sight again, it zipped with an impressive smoothness right up to the window like, haha, not so fast. Where do you think you're going? It turned 90 degrees onto its side, revealing the underside of the craft facing me. It was much smaller compared to the cigar, about 20 feet in diameter. As it stared at me, it began to glow green. I could vaguely make out some simple but foreign-looking geometric symbols that only became visible when the glow was at its strongest. I remember being amazed at its strange, graceful moments. I was just in awe, like it was putting on a show for me. I don't know why, but I actually bowed, curtsied to it at this point. God, even my astral self is cringe. The craft itself seemed sentient and aligned with whatever occupants were inside, but I could see no windows, doors, or beings. I didn't have the ominous feeling whatsoever like I felt with the cigar. I did have this strong, almost telepathic awareness that the time has come, as if they were making themselves and their capabilities known, whether humanity is ready or not. There was also the general message of my previous dream from this year, although that dream was intensely ominous and featured a black triangle. After that, ready or not, here we are, message became clear in my head. I woke up alertly and could still feel the dream. I haven't stopped feeling it all day. I wish I was good at sketching. I would love to recreate what I saw if only I was talented in that way. Is anyone here familiar with accounts of UFO-associated beings that have this kind of appearance? Especially if they had a more sophisticated yet ominous vibe. It's not the description I'm used to hearing, so I'm curious if my mind just randomly made it up or if there are actual reports of these beings. Thanks for reading. Again, I'd love to hear any similar dreams any of you have had. Please feel free to share. UFO Dream by anonymous Reddit user. So, I often scroll through r/aliens because I like ufology and astrobiology, and I've come across a few threads about a dream that multiple experiencers, abductees, have had, in which the sky is filled chock full with alien ships. My dad is just as much a UFO nut as me, so I asked him during a video call today, "Have you ever had this dream?" He said yes. In the 1970s, when I had just moved out of my parents' house, I had a dream that the sky was just filled up with UFOs looking down at us. It was an unbearable dream. It was unbearable how many ships were looking down at us, because we couldn't see them, but they could see us. It felt like a veil had been lifted, revealing a higher dimension, and how absolutely crowded it was with our observers. "Wow," I said to my dad, "so you've had the dream?" "There's more," he said, and I could tell he was getting serious now. "I have never told anybody this, but when I woke up from the dream, I still felt their presence." "Oh geez," I responded, concerned. "Could you still see them in the sky?" "Yes," he nodded. "I could feel them in the sky for 3 days and 3 nights watching." Dad, is it okay if I post this on that subreddit I go to see what they say?" "Yeah. By the way, that's why I became interested in UFOs and aliens. It was that dream. I've never told anyone." "Wow. Thanks for telling me, Dad. I guess you just needed your daughter to confirm it all these years later." "No problem." So, can anyone else relate to my dad's story? Did anyone else have the same dream, feel the same way about it being unbearable, or have the same waking experience after the dream? Please respond if you did. It'll be weird if this is a real phenomenon. Kind of feels like the first act of a sci-fi movie. I really doubt anyone will believe this story, but I have to tell it. By Glittering Ad 3111. This happened last night about 1 a.m., and I don't know how to explain it rationally. At about 1 a.m., my husband and I took our dog out because he was really begging to go. We live in Prescott, Arizona, so the neighborhood is crazy dark out. The streetlights aren't very bright, there's very few of them, and they like to turn off randomly when something passes under them. We were walking the usual path around our neighborhood, but something made my husband and I both stop. I don't know how to properly explain what we saw. It was humanoid, bipedal, but definitely not human. It was maybe 4 feet tall, no clothes, and it was solid gray. It also saw us. It was walking backwards really strangely out of sight and around the street corner, down the path we take to go back around the other side of the neighborhood. It was standing under the light of a street lamp, walking backwards into the shadows of the next street. Once out of sight, my husband and I tried to get a closer look, but when we rounded the corner, maybe 10 or 15 seconds later, it was just gone. It didn't make any noise from the gravel it was on, and there wasn't anything down that street, which was a straightaway with nowhere it could have hid that quickly. What the heck did we see? It was definitely not an animal, and it was definitely not human. I can't stop thinking about it. I need answers. Large Black Eyes by Anonymous. From my earliest childhood memories until the present, I have been chilled by alien abduction material. I am now a full-grown man, well into his 30s. Nevertheless, the original fright cannot be overstated. See, I don't mean that aliens gave me the shivers the way a good ghost story might. Rather, I was deeply unsettled by abduction narratives. They were worryingly familiar, the way a road traveled long and often is familiar, even after many miles and more years have intervened. Then, a single image of the so-labeled grays was insomnia-inducing. It was the eyes, large, black, deep, devilish, like staring into a sentient abyss. Gaze too long and you might tumble into an eternal night from which there is no escape. Those are the ways I would describe them now. Then I just knew that I didn't like the looks of those little monsters. Not one bit. Then the night came, dark and inexorable, when I found out why. I was 7. It was May. Summer swelter had overpowered spring's tempered nights. I lay in bed. My room was a slate gray twilight. A box fan sat in my open window, blowing. I wasn't asleep, not even close. It was too hot for that. Sweating, shirtless, and in pajama bottoms, I had still not resigned the formality of a light sheet. Restless, I turned in the bed, pulling the sheet along as I did. It billowed in the artificial breeze of the fan, and settled. It was like the work of a stage magician, the ones with the loud costumes and capes that are quickly withdrawn with a snap to reveal their stunning assistant, all legs and smiles. Presto. Well, it was the same way, only what it conjured was no lovely assistant. The sheet went up, the sheet came down, and there, unveiled, it stood. I don't have to describe it, we all know what they look like. Then, in the onyx gaze of its eyes, my world went black. I don't know what they did wrong. I don't think that night was their first time with me. I know it wasn't their last. But someone slipped up. Because I remember it all. I came to, I can think of no better way to describe it, on a table. It might have been a surgical bed. It could have been an altar for human sacrifice. I'd rather lean toward the second guess. I tumbled off. I retched black bile onto the floor. There was a distant metallic clatter. My head swam and my vision was clouded. It cleared as I came up on unsteady feet. They were all around me. No taller than my 4 feet 2 inches. Some were shorter. All were frailer. One was hooded with a cloak over sloping shoulders. The rest were without clothes. The hooded one cocked his head like a bird or curious dog. Bewilderment and shock swam in his bottomless eyes. I ran. My bare feet patted down a dim-lit hall. An electric hum filled the air with pregnant energy. It seemed to press upon my burning lungs. Small rooms and narrow passages opened on either side of my thoroughfare. I could not tell if any were occupied by those things. The hall opened onto a grand chamber. The ceiling was lost in a haze. The opposite side was without feature and so without scale. It might have been 40 yards or 40 miles. The walls curved away and upward from me either side, giving the impression of being within a dome. I stutter-stepped to a halt, and there it stood, the same hooded figure, not 3 feet from me. He had not been there, and now he was. "You mustn't run away," the thought flitted from his mind to mine. I say his mind because the voice was male. It was male, or so it presented itself. "You mustn't run away," he repeated. His hand, long and claw-like, appeared from beneath the cloak. The hand touched my chest. It was cold. I erupted bolt upright from my bed, my own very warm hand clutching my thudding chest. The box fan droned as night shadows made their slow procession across the corners of my bedroom. I will never forget that night. My Alien Experience in Roswell by Ray of Flight 3. Throughout my life, ever since childhood, I have had unknown encounters with things I can't explain. This is, however, my only extraterrestrial encounter. Back when I was a kid, my family would always visit San Antonio, Texas each year because my dad's side of the family lived there. During my middle school years, we, my parents and 3 sisters and I, went on our normal trip to Texas, but this time we drove. On our way back to Washington State, we headed up through New Mexico before stopping at a rest stop just outside Roswell. I hate car rides, so I tried to sleep once we got to the rest area. I remember being awoken instantly, as if something inside me forced myself to wake up. Looking around, I saw that it was still late at night as the sky was full of stars. That's when I saw a flash, almost like someone turned on the lights in the night sky before seeing something fly by. My youngest sister saw and heard it as well, asking if I had seen it. I was barely able to process her being awake somehow before my attention shifted to the rest stop bathroom. My brain would not let me take my eyes away. Suddenly, a tall, long-armed, bipedal creature walked through the darkness to the light under the streetlight before walking past the light pole and completely disappearing. I asked my sister if she saw it, and she said yes, but that's when it got even weirder. I turned to my sister, but only to see that it was now bright and early, and my dad was turning on the car to start driving. It must have been a 5-hour time difference that felt instantaneous. My sister still remembers this as well, even how we lost time. It's comforting to have had her awake with me because I probably would have thought I was dreaming. In this next segment, we're looking at some of the most classic and well-known cases of encounters with the strange, including sightings of unidentified flying objects, alien abductions, ghost stories, cryptid encounters, and other unexplained phenomena. So, sit back and prepare to be taken on a journey through some of the most captivating and mysterious stories of the strange and unknown. In this episode, we take a look at the Gorman Dogfight UFO encounter of 1948. Famous encounters. The Gorman Dogfight UFO encounter. The Gorman UFO incident that occurred in Fargo, North Dakota on October 1st, 1948, received significant attention. Captain Edward J. Ruppelt from the United States Air Force considered the encounter to be one of 3 classic UFO sightings in 1948 that proved the existence of unidentified flying objects. Other encounters, such as the Mantell UFO incident, provided further evidence. The USAF later concluded that the incident was caused by a lighted weather balloon. George F. Gorman, a veteran fighter pilot of World War II, was only 25 years old when he witnessed the incident. He was flying a P-51 Mustang with other National Guard pilots. While the other pilots landed at Fargo's Hector Airport, Gorman stayed aloft to get in some night flying time. Gorman observed a small Piper Cub plane flying beneath him before noticing another object that appeared to be a blinking light with no apparent wing or fuselage. Gorman contacted the control tower at Hector Airport and asked if it had any air traffic other than his P-51 and the Piper Cub. The tower answered that it did not, and he contacted the Piper Cub pilot, who also confirmed that they could see a lighted object to the west. Gorman pursued the object in his Mustang, but it was too fast for him to catch it in a straight run. Instead, he attempted to cut the object off by turns. Gorman made a right turn and approached the object head-on at 5,000 feet, and the object flew over his plane at a distance of about 500 feet. Gorman described the object as a simple ball of light, about 6 to 8 inches in diameter, which stopped blinking and grew brighter when it increased speed. After his near collision, Gorman lost sight of the object. When he saw it again, it had made a 180-degree turn and was coming at him again. Gorman followed the object in his own steep climb. At 14,000 feet, Gorman's P-51 stalled while the object remained 2,000 feet above him. Gorman made 2 further attempts to get closer to the object, but was unsuccessful. It seemed to make another head-on pass, but broke off before coming close to his fighter. The object moved over Hector Airport and was viewed by the air traffic controller, L.D. Jensen, who could see no form or shape around the light. Cannon and his passenger from the Piper Cub landed and walked to the control tower to get a better view of the object. Gorman followed the object until he was approximately 25 miles southwest of Fargo, where he observed the light at 11,000 feet and dived on the object at full power. The object made a vertical climb, and Gorman watched as it passed out of visual range. Gorman gave a sworn statement of the incident to investigators, stating he was convinced there was a definite thought behind the object's maneuvers and that it was governed by the laws of inertia. Military officers from Project Sign arrived to interview Gorman, Cannon, his passenger, and the control tower personnel at Hector Airport. They also checked Gorman's plane for any signs of damage. While they initially believed it was a UFO, they later retracted this statement and suggested that it was actually a lighted weather balloon that had caused the sighting. The Gorman Dogfight received wide national publicity and helped fuel the wave of UFO reports in the late 40s. Although some UFO researchers, such as James E. McDonald and Donald Kehoe, disagreed with the U.S. Air Force's conclusions and continued to regard the case as unsolved, other UFO researchers agreed with Project Sign's conclusions in the case. As UFO historian Jerome Clark writes, unlike some Air Force would-be solutions, this one seems plausible, and that, in his opinion, after the Mantell incident, the Gorman sighting may be the most overrated UFO report in the early history of the phenomenon. An encounter based on the Gorman Dogfight appeared in the pilot episode of the History Channel's now canceled Project Blue Book dramatic series. Thanks for watching another episode of Strange Encounters. We hope you enjoyed hearing about the mysterious and unexplained stories that we shared today. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you'll never miss out on any of our future episodes, and you'll help us continue to bring you more fascinating stories and encounters. We'd love to hear from our viewers, so send your own experiences with the unknown to our email at verystrange.encounters.com. You can also submit your stories to the website linked below. You can join us on Reddit at r/verystrange-encounters. If you enjoyed the video and would like to support us, join our Patreon page or go to buymeacoffee.com, both of which are linked in the video description and in the pinned comment below. Your support really helps this channel continue to bring you new and amazing stories. This week's Patron of the Week is Crazy Lazy. Thanks so much for all your support. Thank you again for tuning into Strange Encounters. We appreciate the support of everyone who listens to the channel. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and keep looking up.